We're here on the Build Brand podcast with a very, very special guest. He is the founder of Current Technologies. He has been in the influencer space for now 12, 13.
It's a long time.
A long time. And he's one of my favorite people in the world too. Tryg Jensen.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah.
How long have we worked together?
Probably from your perspective too long, but
we'll see after the podcast.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So this podcast could probably just be like a bunch of broing out, but we'll not do that so we can actually be productive. So yeah, Tryg, I want to hear about, like, let's start from the early days because you've been in this space for a while. So I know like this was before even influencer was like a word. So let's start from the beginnings.
Yeah, first, I mean, honestly, just right out of school. If you remember, like, the time when, I mean, it was really only Facebook, Twitter, Instagram had about 10 million users, very, like, barely content creation. At the time, most of us were just posting links on social, like BuzzFeed articles, all that stuff was taking over your feed. And my original idea was, no one's clicking on these ads on the side. How do you get in the middle? Mm-hmm. Now all this sounds stupid, right? Because all the ads are in the middle. That's what Meta's business was really built off, is how do you get in the feed? And so my original idea was how could you get a bunch of people posting something for you to actually get eyeballs on it? And so we built a platform to do that and to kind of incentivize people sharing links. And so a lot of our clients early days were like those publishers. And then we started getting brands reaching out to us. And I'll never forget the very first time we had a brand reach out and they sent something called an RFP. Mm-hmm. And I literally didn't know what it was.
Just Googling what is RFP.
I was like, what is this spreadsheet that this person sent me? What, like, I have no idea how to fill it out. It had all these like crazy words like CPMs, guarantee, pixel. I'd never heard of any of this stuff. I had no idea. I remember I wish I could go find this email. I emailed her and was like, what do you want me to do with this? I'd like to do it, but I don't know what to do. And she was super nice. Probably need to find this person and be super grateful that they taught me some of the ropes. And we ended up winning that deal, and it was $100,000.
Wow.
Which at the time was crazy. And as part of that deal, we were actually sourcing influencers for the brand, and they were going to create like tweets and posts for the brand. It was the very, very first time. And margin on it was crazy, made so much money. And the business kind of pivoted to that model where we would go and actually find creators. We started creating a database of, like, you know, all these people, understanding their stats and what kind of results they produced. And raise some money, and then right on the back of that ended up getting acquired by Zephyr, and then that's where you and I met.
So, but real quick question, because I probably never even like asked you this. It always just seems when you hear about like a founder's story, like, oh, I started this company, then I got acquired, and then we started this and spun out this company. You're like, because you know, like when we were starting Current, I've done all sorts of weird ways to get in front of brands, but like, talk to me about like your first, like, how were you reaching out to brands? What was your strategy? Like, was LinkedIn a big thing back then?
No.
Like, what was just cold emails or conferences, or like what was?
Yeah,
how did you get the first like bag?
The first deal? Oh my gosh! And the bags were so small; they were not big bags. You know,
not
we were like,
big bags.
We'd get someone to be like, "Yeah, we'll test it for $5,000." We're like, "Oh my gosh, we're rich!"
Yeah.
And so, I think definitely cold email. We would do more cold calling back then too. Like, I think it still works now, but less people do it. But we would find someone who knew someone, get their phone, send them a text. We would also just like, like in LA, we actually just like showed up
to
at
places.
Some of the studios.
Sure.
Like literally just showed up and we're like, hey, we have a meeting with so-and-so in the marketing department. And some of these companies are so big, they're like, I don't see you on the schedule. And then they're like, well, can you ask? And like a couple times we got in the door that way. We just kind of like, well, we're already here. We'll stop by.
Right.
And then we'll have like sent them an email right off of that, so that the person, like say, the receptionist at the bottom would reach out to the marketing person. they're like looking at their inbox for our name.
Sure.
And they have one right there. And they're like, yeah, whatever, send them up.
Genius.
So we literally got a couple deals
Timing,
doing that.
yeah.
So hilarious. Can't even imagine doing that now, honestly, but this is what you have to do.
It's what you have to do, yeah. So, okay, so first company gets acquired by Zephyr, which is how we obviously met.
Yep.
That was like, I'd look back in just like my life, and it was almost 10 years ago, but it's just so funny how like, at least from my perspective, how like perfectly that kind of worked out, like seamlessly really, because I was coming from the traditional big management world and entertainment, and then I literally overheard you talking with someone. They're like, everybody was like buzzing about these new guys that are doing stuff with influencers, and I overheard someone be like, yeah, we need to get in touch with William Morris and CAA, and I'm like, I can help you there.
You're like, I know people there.
I know people there. And then obviously grew a big business at Zephyr, but more importantly, I want like, how did you have like the foresight to realize that brands would need some sort of like software to manage all of their creators?
Yeah, I think when on the kind of back end of the Zephyr experience, one of the things that frustrated me a lot would be we would do, because like the revenue started getting bigger. We were doing a lot of deals, like lots of different brands, lots of different activations. I mean, at any given time, we would have like 10, 20 of these things running. And one of the things that maybe made me sad or frustrated me is you would do all this work, and then once it was over, it was like over.
Right.
The brand didn't really care. The measurement on it was kind of nothing, right? We'd send one deck, and you'd kind of wait a quarter, and then another one would come in. There's very little thought in like, how are we progressing overall with like our influencer strategy, building our community. It felt super transactional. And so again, really just had the thought of how do we make it so that brands can do more of an evergreen style with these creators, and how do I make it so they can own the relationship with the creator? Because the other thing in our industry is there are so many pass-throughs, right? There's the agent, there's the manager, there's the holding company agency, then there's the vendor executing the deal. It just felt super inefficient for the brand, and super, the reporting on it was just kind of loose. And so that was really the original idea for Current, is how do I empower brands directly to manage these relationships, to own the creator. So even if they wanted to use an agency or didn't want to do the work, at least they had a system, a private CRM, where all of that could live and they could onboard more people. Because as you know, like most of these brands would cap out around like 40, 100 relationships with creators. They wanted to do more.
Sure.
But it's just, how do you do more? You can't. Can you have 100 close friends? It's hard to actually stay on top of that many relationships without some sort of tech environment.
Totally.
So that was kind of the genesis of the idea.
Got it. And then obviously now we're here at this incredible conference, Accelerate, put on by Pattern, which now Current is kind of morphing into Pattern Creators and really the influencer arm of Pattern. And we're kind of in that Pattern ecosystem with all of those incredible brands. And since you've started, there are social platforms that weren't even thought of at that point. Now TikTok is a huge platform and a huge talking point, and especially TikTok Shop. So I know this year especially we've been very bullish on TikTok and TikTok Shop and growing that side of brands business. So I would love to hear your thoughts and how we are approaching TikTok Shop and how we think brands should approach TikTok Shop. And
I mean, you said it. I think we view it as the biggest opportunity right now. If you look at the history of our space, you tend to have, maybe it's like every 3 years, maybe it's a little bit more than that, very large organic opportunities if you move quickly. So like Snapchat is a perfect example. Vine was an example. Early YouTube's an example, where if you just made a move without fear and said, I'm going to go there, I'm going to win there, I'm like, yes, maybe it's not going to be the next big thing, but I'm doing it. Those bets all played out, right? Hundreds of thousands of people got famous from Vine. Tens of thousands of people got huge channels off of Snapchat, Netflix deals, all the stuff, right? Brands blew up off of that. To me, TikTok Shop is that again, but it's e-commerce based. So it's so performance oriented. So it's not like how many followers are you getting, it's actually how many sales can you get. So it's a very wild, like opportunity, in my opinion, to actually be able to measure it against performance of sales.
Sure.
Like, am I selling? Am I not? And the bar is so low right now. I think people think it's really high. It's not that high. Go on TikTok Shop right now. Go look at everything that's on there. If you have a good brand that has a good product, you'll probably win. Go on the live streams. If you go on the live stream and you look right now, you can do a live stream that's just as good as the one you guys are seeing.
Yep.
So to me, that's the opportunity. And creators are hungry for high quality brands on TikTok Shop. They want to be affiliates for these brands. They want to, work with, people that are selling in other places and that have good brand recognition. So I think that's why it's such a big opportunity. It's hard. It's a ton of work to spin these things up, but I mean, I think one of our slides today, like TikTok Shop's trying to 6x this year in terms of growth. I mean, these are crazy numbers.
Sure.
So if you can ride that wave, that's great.
So, like, obviously sitting here and hearing you talk, and we're like, oh, I started this company, got acquired by this company, and spun out in this company. It all obviously seems like very easy. What are, like, where have you taken the most L's? Like, what is your biggest L?
Oh, man. I don't know, man. There's L's every week. There's big L's on anytime you're playing in the content game. You're going to take big L's.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be wrong on something you thought was going to be amazing, some video that you're putting together you thought was going to work.
Sure.
I mean, I've had at least 100 investors tell me no. Some of my biggest early L's were literally trying to explain the creator economy to venture capitalists and them telling me, like, straight to my face, that will never scale. That opportunity will be very small.
Sure.
And I wish, like, I could go talk to some of those people now, because they've probably placed tens of millions of dollars into companies in that category,
exactly.
Right? And so, like, I think anytime you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to even say, like, what's your biggest L, because you are constantly taking them.
You're constantly taking L's.
But you need them.
Sure.
You got to take them. And I think brands too, like, you have to take L's. If you're trying to operate with, like, some 50-50 batting average on content and your ads, good luck. Let me know if you figure out that formula. It's way, way better to just operate in a low ego environment, run a high volume game, figure out what works and scale it, right? If you build your team that way, they won't be so stressed. It won't be groupthink. Everyone will feel empowered to take the risk necessary to find the next hit.
So, and then we kind of like end all of our build brand conversations with like a pretty high level question. And it's just, what do you think the future of the creator economy is?
Cool. Man, there's a lot of things coming. I think, shops here and present in this moment. I do think that will continue to be the future in terms of the culture that you're seeing in shop will permeate, I think, across all of e-commerce, meaning the content game, the liveness of it, the authentic nature of it, the rawness of it. If your brand is not ready for that environment, get ready. Like, the consumer is not going to accept you not participating in that. That's my view. I think in a handful of years, there will be many, many, many AI influencers that will be indistinguishable from other influencers now, and all of us will be totally fine with it.
Yep.
It won't even be taboo. It'll be totally normal. It'll be cool.
Sure.
They will create interesting content and actually add value to the ecosystem. For sure, there's some scary stuff there too, but I think there's anytime new tech comes out, it eventually can arrive at something that's good.
Yep.
And so I think that's also something that's coming. And if you're a brand, or if you're someone looking at this space, it's probably go investigate it. Yep. Go see what's there.
Yeah, and the whole AI conversation is probably for a whole other podcast.
Yeah, we'll probably do a pod on
and especially
that.
How we're implementing that into like what we're doing at current or
100%.
pattern. So it's really exciting. So thank you, Tryg.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.